I wonder if it started out as some sort of like writers group exercise, like write a story about
Mm.
amnesia, uh, that isn't like every other bloody story about amnesia or something like that, like
Well,
that. But it's not
suppo-
the or write a story about anterograde
well,
amnesia where it's the opposite, and maybe that was the idea, and maybe that was the seed of the idea for writing the story. Jonathan
well,
Nolan writing the short story in the first place. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Let's ask
Jonathan's.
him.
Well, I can tell you what he told us in the
Oh, I was going to
DVD.
say you
Yeah,
probably
I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
So basically,
Thought you might.
the premise of how this came about was Jonathan had already had this idea about this story,
Hmm,
about a guy not being able to make new memories,
hmm.
and how he was going to do it. So on a drive between Chicago and LA, the two brothers were in a car driving out, and Jonathan was telling his brother, Christopher, about this premise, and they got talking and elaborated on it. And he said, "Look, do you mind if I do a screenplay on this? Because this sounds like an absolutely brilliant idea. You carry on writing your novel. I'm not going to, change anything
Oh,
on
a short
that. But
story
can I
basically. Yeah.
take this idea and do a screenplay on it and maybe come make a movie out of it?" And they both agreed. They said, "Yeah, fine." So the bet went off and did very different ideas of the same structure of someone not making new memories. And Nolan's film is very different from the novel, um, but with a essential premise.
Do you know what
But
that reminds
what
me
what
of?
was also, sorry, let me finish.
Yeah.
Is that was then really interesting about your previous question about memory is that when they were making the film, Christopher Nolan and Guy Pearce were having really deep conversations about their own memory and what they do remember, what they don't remember, how memory is subjective, and they brought those elements of their both sort of like anxieties about memory into this film,
Hmm.
which is really interesting. He was saying that Guy Pearce had an absolutely amazing memory. So when they were filming, and another really weird quirk about this film, do you know how long this film took to shoot? How long the shooting was?
No,
25 days.
that's
25
that's
days this
pretty
film was
quick. Yeah,
shot
that's
in. It's
pretty quick.
really quick. Obviously, most films, when they're shot anyway, they're not always shot in chronological order anyway, because it's about,
Yeah.
costumes and setting
Well,
and
when he
who's
sets, you
available
shoot
and who
everything in
isn't
one set
available.
up, and then you shoot everything in
Your
another
suit
set.
is set
Yeah,
up, and
yeah.
yeah, exactly. But what was
One
really quite
location, and
interesting
then
is Christopher Nolan was saying how good Guy Pearce's memory is, and it was really easy to get things back in order for certain shots and sort of things. So he remembered exactly what he'd done and what he'd said on
yeah.
previous shots and stuff, and he could
How many
replay
fingers
that
he'd use to pick the phone up or whatever.
exactly,
He's
all
one of
those
those. He's
sort
one
of
of those
little
people,
things
is
as
he?
well.
Right.